Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
It's the pop culture field, and you will.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast, sitting right at the intersection of weapons, action, the military, and pop culture. Thanks for listening. My name is Cameron Fath, as always, and I'm joined with my great buddy here.
As always, my name is also Israel Wright.
Yes.
I was going to say also. I don't mean also as always. I'm Israel Wright, but not. My name is not always Cameron Fath.
You're rambling.
Yeah, I'm rambling. I'm a
it's
little nervous.
Because we have an awesome
We have an
guest
awesome,
here,
amazing
and he's
guest
super
with us
nervous
today. Yep.
because this guy was in one of the staple units in the military. I'm extremely honored to have him here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Mike Eckard, ladies and gentlemen, Vietnam vet, and also in Special Forces, my unit.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. So Mike, welcome to the show. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing these days, and then we'll talk maybe a little bit about your experiences and stuff like that.
As you said, I was in Special Forces.
Yeah, he's excited about that.
We met a couple weeks ago, and we got a chance to talk about it. You certainly enlightened me on a lot of the stuff that's happening in Special Forces nowadays, because I've been away from it for a while. Haven't been back to Bragg in a long time. Mm-hmm. But since then, I've been in security.
Oh, okay, all right. Cool.
I started a security company, and my partner and I are doing a lot of VIP protection.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Which I enjoy because it still keeps me in the game, keeps me sharp and stuff like that.
It
so
does.
Oh, that's cool.
Been doing a lot of that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So going back a little bit, tell us when did you join the military, about what time, what made you join, and then we'll get into
Well, I joined in 1969.
Okay.
I went into training, and after I got out of AIT, I went to jump school.
All right, cool, nice.
And in jump school, I got approached to try for selection.
Oh, cool.
And went into that, and I figured I was going to go to Vietnam anyway. If I was going to go over, I want to be with two things. I want to know the best. I want to have the best training I could have, and I wanted to be with people that wanted to be there, because at that time the draft was going, and there was a lot of guys that didn't want to be there, and I understood that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't. Most didn't.
Yeah.
But because they didn't want to be there, a lot of them were just not there mentally.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of stupid things.
Making it hard for everybody.
Yes. And I didn't want to be in with a group of that. So so I that's what caused me to go ahead and go through selection. And once I got into it, it fit.
Cool.
And it was something that I really enjoyed. And when I got over there.
What was your deployments like? Had multiple deployments? How long were you there for?
I stayed. I went in 71.
Okay.
But it was the end of 71 through 72, and then mid 73.
You were there the whole time. You just stayed over there.
Yeah. We was able to do that. We was able to just extend over there.
So you never came home. You were there for over a year.
For a year and 8 months.
Wow.
Seven and a half months.
Yeah.
But that's nothing. I had a buddy on my A team. He had been in Vietnam 8 years. He'd actually been out of the United States for 10. the 2 years that he wasn't in Vietnam, he went back to Okinawa because he was with First Group originally.
Yeah.
And then came over. So he took a year off and then another year off. But through the whole time, he had been there for 8 years.
Wow, was he single?
Well, no, he wasn't. He actually had a Chinese wife
Oh, wow.
that was in Vietnam.
Oh my gosh.
So
She was just living there.
yeah,
Kinda
and he had
off
two.
base
He
kinda
had
thing?
2 kids.
Oh man.
Oh, man. What a character.
What a trooper, man. Gee
Yeah,
whiz.
he was something else.
Yeah, I'm sure. Jeez.
So going back just real quick, I wanted to give people a little bit of insight into what was your job when you were over there in Vietnam? You know, what did you do? You know, kind of generally, you know, speaking. What was your purpose, task and purpose there?
Well, I was communications.
Okay.
It was my
18
primary
networks.
MOS. which was good. I at the time I thought about medic, but I didn't figure I want to put that much time, or I wasn't sure I could get through that
Yeah,
one.
it's
Yeah.
the longest
But,
pipeline in the Special Forces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those two, medic and communications, were the ones that were always, needed on teams because we were short those. So it allowed me to jump around a lot. I ended up in a number of different places because of that. Anywhere from Quang Tri all the way down to below Saigon in different projects because of that. And in fact, when we shut down SOG, the CNC camps, I was able to jump to an A team. Friends of mine that I run into in Saigon at the time they were coming through, and they was working with the Cambodians. And I thought, that'd be cool. Go over and do some, train people and run missions with them.
Yeah.
A little bit different than what I'd been doing. So I went over to that. So it was good because the MOS was needed, and it allowed us to jump around a lot.
That's sweet. Going on that topic, how did that, was that just like a kind of a under the table, be like, hey, can I come with you guys? Or was there more administrative work? Because in my mind, I think Vietnam was like the Wild West, was in a sense. So was there like, had to go up through the chain, or were you just working on a project and you're like, can I go with these guys? Like,
There was it didn't go up through a, big,
like the commander needs to approve this and it needs to get approved.
No, what had happened, and actually it turned out very, very good for me. We shut down CCC, which was at Kontum. It was a command and control central. SOG had 3 camps: command and control north in Da Nang, command and control central in Kontum, and then command and control south, which was in Ban My Thuot. And we shut them all down, and we was going to. A bunch of us were pulled together to go to Nha, and we was going to go to another project. But in the process, I was in Nha airport and run into some buddies of mine, and they said, "Hey, we need some radio operators over with what we're doing." It was Fang Training Command with FTC, and we're training Cambodians, and we're bringing them in from Cambodia. We're training them, running missions with them for FTCs, actual missions, and then we send them back. And I thought, I think I'll do that.
Cool to me.
But fortunately for me, it worked out good because from there, I was the team that I came back from Kontum was going to fly up north. They got on a plane and took off, and that plane slammed into a mountain and killed every one of them.
Oh my goodness.
So it was kind of a
Providential.
hand
of
It was
God.
one of those things.
Jeez.
Mike, one more thing, and we can kind of get into like kind of some of the more pop culture stuff we're talking about. I know some people are going to ask, I'm hearing their voices in my head, but like, do you have like a favorite kind of memory, a favorite kind of mission, something that you've taken with you, like, what, that was a good day, we really did our thing that day, kind of stuff.
There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. Yeah. Anybody that's been in combat knows that. And when you come back from someone where you've really accomplished something, you brought back some good information. At SOG, that's what we were doing. We were going in and on the ground and trying to find out what the enemy was planning and what the enemy was doing. We had a a communications relay that was in Laos. It was on a hilltop in Laos, and it was, highly classified. It had NSA communication equipment up there, but it was just this little compound on this top of this hill in 12 clicks into Laos. And I spent some time up there. It was usually 2 or 3 Americans, and we had a small indigenous force on there. That place had never been hit, we got rocketed a couple times, but it had never been overrun or anything. But you could sit on that mountain and you could look down and see the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and at night you could see the lights come on. And we would call in arc lights on those trails.
Right on.
used to enjoy that, watching those arc lights coming in.
Like a turkey shoot.
That's awesome, man.
That's badass.
Well, now we'll transition a little bit, Mike, from your personal story to talking about some of our favorite veteran characters in movies. That is to say, characters in movies who have been in the military,
Okay.
And just and if you think of any on your own but we have a little list here. Like the first one we've talked about him before.
Yeah.
Classic veteran John Rambo from the Rambo series, and But anyway,
And we don't know how familiar you are with Rambo's characters. Have you seen the movies?
I have seen.
Okay.
Stallone's movie. Actually, I'm a fan of Stallone. He's done some very good work.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, really.
No, I'm
the
surprised he's
success
still
that he's
doing
had.
it too. He's still doing it.
He is.
Man.
a lot of horse steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of horse steroids. They really, that must be the secret sauce right there. I go to my physician and ask for that prescription.
Yes. I know he was quite a writer too. Stallone was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rocky series was all his.
Yeah, and didn't they now? If correct me if I'm wrong, but he kind of didn't he fight to kind of star in that movie? Like they wanted to get somebody else.
He shopped the script at a number of different places, and they wanted somebody else, and he would no. He held out to play it himself, and it was a success because of
Absolute success.
Oh, and it looks like I'm looking here. He co-wrote First Blood, Rambo First Blood, and then it was actually based on a 1972 novel of the same day by David Morrell.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Stallone was so involved in the movies. I thought he was just big action star with, busting biceps. But apparently he was more than that. That's good.
He's been a writer since kind of early on. He's had hands in writing a lot of the stuff that he's done.
Yes. Yes.
Italian stallion.
Yeah. What do you think about the first Rambo movie, First Blood?
It was good entertainment, but
Was it an accurate portrayal of special forces? That's what we want. That's what we want.
SF hated it.
Oh, really?
Yes, they said we are not Rambo.
Yeah.
Interesting side note: there was a John Rambo at C&C in North, I believe.
No kidding.
So he was based. You're telling me this movie's based off.
No,
a true
no.
story.
It's a good thing that movie wasn't out back
Yeah,
then. He would have
otherwise he
really
would get
caught a lot of flack.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Oh, John Rambo.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, his character's super awesome. I mean, Israel's been the seer. And did they do any survival as far as, because we kind of looked into the seer school timeline about when it was stood up and what it was really oriented to during Vietnam and your guys' selection process to get to SF. Were you involved in any seer type of survival school?
We had survival stuff, but SEER hadn't been compiled yet.
Okay.
And you know who authored SEER? It was Colonel Nick Rowe.
Nick Rowe, yeah. Nasty Nick, the obstacle course is named after him.
It is now, yeah.
Can't recall him.
He was a POW for quite a number of years. Actually escaped just before they were going to put him to death.
Wow.
Because they found out the whole time he was in captivity, they didn't know he was SF. Because there was it was pretty much anybody caught, by the Viet Cong, and it was known that they were special forces. They were killed right away.
Oh, wow.
For massive war crimes
Yeah.
against their.
Yeah, but him and a couple other were caught, but he didn't he didn't have any markings on him, so
Yeah.
they didn't know who he was, and he was able, because of his he was. I forget what his MOS was, but he was able to convince the VC or the NVA that he was just like
Joe.
a grunt.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't know anything about that until they found out right at the end. Right towards the end, and he got out just in time. And he created SEER because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
You wanted to prepare people for something like that, that eventuality.
yeah. So the fact that he was able to survive, and then escape and evade to finally get to a point where he was picked up. He was picked up by choppers. So
Yeah. I mean, that's a crazy story in itself. Do you have any insight on the differences between the survival course that you took and what SEER became? Were there similarities, differences?
No,
Do you know?
I don't know what the changes were. I know it was much more intense. SEER is much more intense than what we went through.
Okay.
I think the stuff that we got was from the instructors that had been over, and some of them had been captured, and
That's still awesome.
That's awesome.
Some of them it was just their experiences that we
absolutely.
got, and so they would try that on us, and
See if it worked?
Throw it at the wall, see if it
Kinda
works.
the,
I love the
kinda the guinea pig
unrefined.
class.
Yeah, the guinea pig, the experimentation.
Yeah.
My one of the coolest parts was like obviously the field training exercise where it all comes together, and then you get captured,
Yes.
and they take you to it's a big old compound, and you're like in the People's Republic of Pineland, which is kind of like North Korea-ish, you know, and all the psychological things that they do to you to trick you and beat you down.
Yeah.
And you have to use your training to like insulate people and support one another. And they even had a portion where we were writing letters home, and you had to write things that would
Like
tell
code?
them, code stuff in there so that they
cryptic?
know you were not okay.
Was it like Black Horse type of?
Well, it was more like, if to let them know that like you were not being treated well. You would, they would, like, you want to write something that like your parents or your family would know. Like, no,
Yeah.
like, say hi to little, my dog Nick for me. It's like, well, he doesn't have a dog, Nick. He's like, oh, he's trying to tell us like things aren't all right or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. I'll never forget that. Like I never want to actually be captured. That was probably good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, SEER was one of those schools that was on my bucket list just because, I don't know, I'm a very egotistical soldier. I want to do all the schools and do them all just to get them on. Yeah, I want to win. I want to get them all underneath my belt. I want to be the best soldier that I could literally be, like, at the top level, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go, but I hear stories like this, and it just makes me want to go even more.
Well, you do have to sign waivers to go to
Oh,
SEER.
absolutely. I mean, I heard they used to break fingers, and they get to beat you around and
the
everything.
physical abuse, and it isn't just mental.
Yeah.
Mental's bad enough with a lot that they do, but the physical is actually there too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm sure.
be prepared for that.
Yeah, I haven't. My girlfriend does it enough, rings my bell, but if I step out of line, so I'm like, I'm qualified.
Well, other characters that you may or may not know from pop culture that had military service. This is a great one. I'm glad we're talking about this one. But Sam Quint from Jaws, the character played by Robert Shaw, the shipboat captain that they go out with, and he talks about when they delivered the bomb with the USS Indianapolis and stuff like that, and that monologue that he has.
Yes, I remember that. I remember Jaws.
Yeah.
That's quite a big part of that movie, really, because it set his character up.
Yeah.
Give you a real human look at him. So
yeah. I think we talked about this a little bit with Jennifer that came in. We talked about all women in the military that are in movies and stuff, but like it really does add. I think some writers do it better than others, but it really does add like a depth to the character that is different and unique from maybe just giving them like like I grew up in a rough part of town kind of, but if you say they're like a former military, former Marine or something like that,
It's like a shortcut to skip analyzing their story. So if you want to give someone just like depth and a specific skill set right off the bat, you just say, oh, he was special forces, or oh, he was, Marine recon or something. Right. But it's funny how in Hollywood they do that just to be able to qualify someone to be good.
It's a quick way to give them some background.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and sometimes that's treated better in some movies than other. Because like I think when we're talking about Sam Quint and stuff like that, like I think it adds more to his character in like a positive way. Like he, you know, I don't know. It's,
he's not
it's
just a
superficial
crazy
as
guy.
yeah. He's not just some shipboat captain. Like he stayed on the water, you know,
Yeah.
and knowing that he's a veteran of the Navy kind of thing, there might be something that like connects him to that, you know, and then like how driven he is, you know.
Right.
There could be there when you think about, you know, what he did, what he went through in the military. There could be like something about that where he's still reaching for something, and so it works. To me, works better.
It does. I mean, his character is initially, he's like the shark guy. He's the shark hunter. Like, wherever sharks are, he's the guy to get them for you.
Yeah.
Because just based off his experience, the USS Indianapolis, when they went down, and that's a crazy story. And that's why I never would join the Navy, because I hate the water. I hate the water. And I mean, I could not imagine just floating days at a time and just having dudes picked off by sharks.
Yeah.
And I just stay away from the water.
Yeah, that'd be pretty traumatic.
That would be traumatic, but
Yeah.
he chose to stay.
Yeah.
Even after experience like that, which I mean, I would go to
Yeah.
the mid west there, where water is a
Into the
commodity.
desert, yeah.
Go to New Mexico or something. But no, he chose to stay in the water, and instead of letting the fear of the ocean take over, he kind of became it and just went after like a revenge type of thing for sharks.
Yeah, it faced his fears,
Absolutely,
which
Yeah.
is you know is quite a character trait.
Absolutely, it's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Extremely.
Yeah, you never really stop. Really, there's always something more to go after. You know.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you have, as we're talking about veterans in pop culture like Rambo, for example, and I mean, at least Vietnam, the Hollywood scene was still coming up as far as movies, but do you have a specific person or a character that was like kind of that you aspired to be like in your service, or someone that you're like, yeah.
Well, yeah, in my time, we grew up with heroes like the Lone Ranger,
the Rifleman,
the Rifleman.
Great show.
Oh, cool.
Westerns were big.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, and there was a lot of those. But there were people that you looked up to, and they were people with high moral standards. Their courage was out there without pushing it out there. So yeah, there was a lot of those characters. John Wayne and
Classic.
his patriotism was just something that I really thought was great. And one of the reasons I went in, because I really felt that I should. It's a country. It's my country, and even though JFK wasn't alive anymore, I believed in what he said. That's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
JFK was one of the greatest presidents to ever surface here.
Yeah,
He did a lot for special forces too.
Yeah, he was the one. You hear the story that they didn't have an official headgear.
Oh yeah,
and he came and did the inspection at the time, and the guy who was in charge of it wore the headgear. He's like, "That's really nice headgear."
I like that.
How do you like? He authorized. He signed it as a presidential order, which was what stopped General Shinseki from using the Green Beret.
Wow, I didn't know that. Because I know in Vietnam, the Ranger Lurse teams had the black beret.
Had the blacks.
We had the black beret. That was our specific beret before the Army came and took it.
Yeah.
Then everybody's got a beret now.
Because it never got authorized. You can wear it. The black beret. Rangers were wearing them back in garrison, but they couldn't go out of garrison with that on.
It was kind of just like nowadays. It's kind of we always have to have something to our name, and now it's the tan beret because when they authorize a universal headgear as a black beret, so we went to the tan beret.
Right.
But now it's something of our own. Instead of having a beret, we have long hair.
Is that a thing
super
now?
Long hair, yeah.
Oh my gosh! Oh, wow.
Did you hear the story about how Shinseki?
No.
Well, it was back at Bragg.
Okay.
They had a dress parade set up. I can't remember if it was a change of command or what, but he was there, and he was about the only person that wasn't wearing a beret because the Rangers were wearing the blacks and Special Forces had the green berets. So he went back. He said, "I want the whole military to have berets because they associated the beret as being esteemed, so he was going to do the whole army that way."
Man,
and he tried to get the green, but he couldn't get it because of what JFK did.
'cause it was presidential
nerve
order.
of that
Because it was
guy.
presidential order.
Cool.
I never did. That's a cool story.
That's
I
good.
never knew.
Protect-
And the Green Beret was because of Yarborough.
Yarborough, yeah, William P. Yarborough. Yeah.
He was command of Special Forces at that time, and when JFK came down for a inspection, Yarborough actually prior to the inspection, he knew it was happening, and he wanted to have everybody in Green Berets, so he ordered a bunch of them. And all the guys were wearing Green Berets. And when Yarborough met JFK said, "How do you like those berets?" He says, "Oh, we like them great." So he went back to Washington and signed the order.
That's great.
Amazing. That's an amazing
JFK.
story.
That's awesome, man. So I have a question, Mike, for you. Just what are your thoughts on like whether good or bad, the presence of like military people in like pop culture, like the presence of characters being portrayed in like movies and music and television and video games and all that kind of stuff?
It's never bothered me because it's as long as you keep in mind it's Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's make believe, and it goes back further than John Rambo. Billy Jack was supposed to be former Special Forces.
Oh, interesting.
The first movie he did, it was crazy. He played the same character, but it wasn't named Billy Jack, and he was supposed to be a Marine. But then the second one, he became a Green Beret for some reason.
So, you gotta jump. You gotta make that jump.
So it was all to establish that mystique, and because Special Forces back then was very unknown. But there was enough of it out there to where these are the ninjas, type of deal. So they could use that, and I don't see anything wrong with it as long as it's kept in the mindset that it's mostly Hollywood.
I mean, do you see it as it's kind of like they say imitation is the finest form of flattery? Do you see it kind of like that, or do you just think it's like writers?
No, I do, because it's like a lot of things that there's a certain amount of mystique to that they're able to use it and play it up.
Absolutely.
But the guys that are in it know the difference.
Yeah.
And that's fine. The movie John Wayne did about
The Green
Berets.
Berets.
It was factual in a lot of ways because the missions that they did were actually missions that were done. The Camp Overrun was Camp 107. That Roger Donlin, the first Medal of Honor winner in Vietnam, it was his camp that was overrun, and that was the one depicted. And that mission into North Vietnam was a strata mission to get that general, I think it was. So those were action missions, but it was still played up,
in the Hollywood mystique.
Hollywoodized. So. But and they do that, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me.
That's cool. Going back to when I asked you about having like influential characters that like kind of inspired you in your service, nowadays it seems like since the internet's so vast and you can pretty much find anything nowadays. Because I mean, me and Israel have spoke, and I mean, when you went through, like you said, Special Forces, nobody knew who you guys were. And there was no access to like, oh, how do I train for this or what to expect when I get there? And I mean, even when Israel went through.
Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
There was none of that. And even when I went through my Ranger selection, the only thing I had was a book called Violence of Action, and there was like one chapter on the selection process, and it was like this process, this selection is hard, the end. So it was like, I didn't know what to get into. So, I mean, in your time, was it just all word of mouth, how to expect, like basically what to expect when you're going through the selection, or were you just finding out as you were going through? How did that work?
Well, it was word of mouth, basically.
Yeah.
And even that was very limited because guys didn't know. There was no pre-selection.
Yeah.
Even Ranger School didn't have RAF or RASP or Rift. The two different. There was none of that. You were just immersed into it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I got to Bragg, we got there. We was in a reception type of arrangement for about a week, and then we were kitted up and we jumped into Camp McCall, which was very secret. The training for Special Forces was classified back then.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it still is, but there's a lot of it that isn't. It's out there. But every bit of it was classified back then.
Wow.
But my first exposure was my first enlightenment to what I was in. Going to be. What I was going to have to do. So it, in some ways, I think that was good.
It was good.
Because we did, no really preconceived notions. We just, what's it going to be like? Well, I don't know.
We'll find out, right? And, if it sucks, we'll quit. And if it does suck, we're going to get over it, and not quit. Because we have, we have a lot of people nowadays, since, there's Instagram and there's, Facebook.
Right.
But a lot of people message us, the younger guys in high school that want to pursue it. And instead of like, I don't even know if it's a negative or a positive thing, because they're always just asking, what do I expect? Or give me some advice. But when we went through, it was like, this is it. I'm just going to do it. And I don't know if it's a positive or a negative. How do you see that? If having all this access to these selections and knowing what to do, does it handicap the selection, or do you think you should just go and find out instead of preparing for it?
Well, like with pre-selection, where you go in and you actually get exposed to some, and you train in areas that you're gonna you're gonna be tested on and study. That part of it is good, but because of the access to internet and that's out there, there's so much misinformation.
Absolutely.
As well. And that maybe is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that we, obviously we didn't have. So everything was new to you. So you kept an open mind.
Absolutely.
And, whatever you get hit with, that's what you're going to get hit with.
Yeah, it sounds like this isn't what I expected.
Right. It was good in that regard, because no preconceived notions. You say, okay, this is it. All right. Well, I'm doing this today. Okay. And I'm doing this today. You just take it as it comes.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, it was better back then.
Were there any cadre that you fondly or not fondly remember from that time? Anybody in particular that left an impression on you all these years ago? Yeah.
Bear Martin.
Bear Martin?
Yes.
What a name.
First and last name remembered. Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me. He was something else. Run into him at the Q course. He was one of the instructors.
Oh, okay.
And him and his brother both were SOG vets.
Wow, both of them. Wow.
Both.
Was his brother's name Wolf?
No.
Yeah. Complete the predator animal list.
Yeah. But they were both recon people at SOG at different times, and he would tell the story in the classroom. I told you back when I went through, there was just one classroom. At McCall.
Bunch of
just
tents.
wooden looked like a little house on the prairie type of a situation. But we would all get in there, and that's where we would have our in class stuff. But he told a story once about being on recon. He was on one recon team. His brother was on another recon team, and his brother was out, and they got caught, and they lost contact with him. Well, he was. They called for a bright light, which I don't know if you remember what a bright light is. Bright light is a rescue team. A bright light gets called. They've got teams already set up on the pad that are ready to go out and
Oh, that would be like a QRF for us.
Yes. When we ran recon, it was 2 Americans and 4 indigenous, or could be as much as 3 Americans and 5 or 6 indigenous. Well, and his team was 2 Americans and 4 indigenous, and his brother, was always, when they'd go out, they'd always listen for whatever communication they could get about the others being out there, and he heard that he got into a firefight and they lost contact with him, and so he jumped on the bright light team to go out there, and he found him, and his brother was killed.
Oh man!
But he was relating the story, about how tough it was and how tough he was, type of a deal, and he was able to escort his brother's body back to the States. And he was saying, yeah, he says, I was telling Mom, I said, he screwed up. He said, we found the 2 Americans together, and that was never supposed to happen. The 2 Americans were always supposed to be separated by the indigenous so they could run the team no matter what happened.
Okay.
And he says, I told Mom, he says, he screwed up. He says, they were together. He says, it's better him than me.
Oh man!
Oh, brutal.
And he was just doing it for effect for the
class.
For the class.
I had a guy like that.
But he was very colorful in that regard all the way through training. He was always coming up with stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I had an experience like that. I don't remember the cadre's name, but his face is burned into my mind. And when I was in pre-RASP, they would always. We would always have accountability formations before every single day that they let us go. And each accountability formation, whoever was on the CQ, the instructors that were on the CQ that day would come down and get the head count. So it would be a different guy every day. But this individual, he came down. He seemed drunker than a skunk at this point, and he screamed at us for it would seem like about an hour and a half, telling us, because we were about to go into RASP, like in the next coming days. And he tried to give us this motivational speech, but he was obviously intoxicated. So he started he started going off, and one thing I specifically remember about it was, to get that effect, he's like, if you quit, you will be a quitter for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter if you do good afterwards, and it doesn't matter if you once you get out of the military and you succeed, you will always be labeled as a quitter. And then he went on to describe his tattoos, that he had hash marks for all his dead buddies on his chest, and that he would kill everybody that ever walked in front of him. But it was that psychological effect. Yeah. I will always remember it, because he would stumble around and was just going off for an hour and a half. And I was like, this is what I want to be when I grow up.
Oh, this is salty.
I was like, this is exactly the ranger I want to be.
My cadre, the one that I remember most fondly was Sergeant Summers. And he was actually, I was an 18 X-ray, so we had to do the pre-training before going to selection. That was about 4 weeks long. And man, he really I remember the first day, lineup formation, he came up and was looking at names and stuff like that. And I remember him being really he was saying mean things to me, but he had kind of a smile on his face. He's like, you know that this is all for show, Yeah. And then he was the one who, I remember we were running formation. He used to talk about Old Testament Bible people. He's like, David's mighty men of honor. That's you guys. You guys are going to go and you're going to take down the thing, And then he took a shine to me when I was having trouble with land navigation. I wasn't finding it. It wasn't clicking for me. And he actually took me and him, went out together on one of the courses, and he did everything. He found all the points, and he talked about his thought process and stuff. And then after that, everything kind of clicked. So I will always be thankful to him, and I'll always remember him with that impression.
Yeah. It's weird though when you go through that instructor student phase. And one thing about in RASP, all the NCOs do RASP time, and then they cycle back to the line. So when I would have these instructors in RASP or in CERT, which is small unit ranger tactics, before they sent you off to ranger school, and that was led by the 75th as well. And you would go through and have these instructors just make your life hell, and then they would cycle back and they would end up in your platoon or something. And it happened a bunch of times, and I would see him, like one of the instructors there. I was like, oh my God, this guy made my life. And he would just be like, hey, buddy, what's going on? And you're like, what do you have planned? Like, are you going to hurt me when I turn my back?
Hey, we're all friends.
Yeah,
now.
we're all friends now. And that was quite the shock, just being surrounded by these guys that you're just like, oh, your life is, my life is screwed.
Well, that's when you would hang on to the idea that, well, it's only going to be for so long.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time. Yep. Everything comes. I want to get this tattooed on me. It's just like everything comes to an end eventually.
This too shall pass.
This
that was
too
actually
shall
something
pass.
I heard often actually in the Q course. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's only temporary.
Yeah, that's what kept you going.
Oh, absolutely. And not to mention, I love the craziness. The chaos is what fuels me.
I love it. Talking about, let's see, let's who else can we like talk about? That's Did you ever see Taken?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think about that? Because Brian Mills, Liam Neeson's character, now he's not military, but CIA. Oh, was he in Special Forces? I thought he was just in the CIA.
I think he was just CIA.
Yeah, CIA.
But he was a long time sitting CIA guy.
Yeah, he was like an old dog, kind of thing.
Spent a lot of time in that neck of the woods that his daughter got in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, running those missions.
Yeah.
That's how he acquired those particular set of skills.
Well, yeah. And more importantly, that's how he got all the contacts, all the network that he had, because that's what did him more good than anything.
I think, thank you for sharing everything that you've shared so far. Like we said in the beginning, it's been an honor having
fun.
you here. But we're getting close to the end here, but we never finish an episode without playing a game. And I know it sounds childish, but hell.
Games can teach you valuable lessons.
Games can teach you valuable
They
lessons.
can.
Exactly. So I'm going to be running this game, and this one is for you and Israel. Right. And it's going to be called Name That War. So this game is actually really simple. I'm just going to give you the name of a movie, video game, book, TV show, and you tell me what war it features. Super simple, right?
Oh, this may be bad. I'm not a real big
well, you're lucky
gamer.
You're
you got the perfect partner here. So
call a friend.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Exactly. So let me know.
I'm your lifeline.
Yeah. And some of these are quite obscure.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh.
So good luck, gentlemen. This is going to be a warm-up one. So just really easy, maybe for Israel, but it starts with a video game, Medal of Honor.
Wait. Just one?
Medal of Honor.
It's like it's a whole franchise. It's a whole series.
OG Medal of Honor.
Oh, it's the first one. Okay. Well, if it's the first game, what do you think? What era do you think they might have pulled from? If it's the first,
I would have to say World War II.
I was going to say World War II as well. Let's go with that.
Oh, you both were correct. Yeah, it's
all
definitely
right,
World War II.
Right, cool.
There, starting off strong.
Pretty simple. Early franchise, Medal of Honor.
This is how we build the confidence and then we crush it. All right, here we go. Actually, this one shouldn't be that bad. So, MASH.
Oh, that was Korea.
Yep, Korean War. Yep.
Wow, okay, all right, damn. All right, yeah, you're absolutely correct. It was the Korean War, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
That's good. That's really, because we've talked about it before, there's not a lot of pop culture references to the Korean War. There's not a lot of movies or video games or television shows.
Yeah. It's one of those wars that has just kind of just been overlooked, even though there's so many, historical battles, just
so many great stories.
So many great stories. I mean, Ralph Puckett just took the Medal of Honor for his battle.
No kidding.
And that was, he just got it this year.
Yeah.
And that was a long time coming. I mean, luckily Ralph Puckett was at my Ranger School class. He goes to every class and gives you like a warm up pep talk. And that dude, he's still kicking. So that was an honor in itself. Okay.
I had an uncle in Korean War. My father was World War II, and his other brother was World War II. But the youngest brother went to Korea, and we looked at Korea like you look at Vietnam.
Absolutely.
You guys had it tough.
Oh man, absolutely.
Incheon and the battles that they had in the cold and stuff.
Oh yeah, those dudes tough as nails.
Yes.
I mean, man.
And the Korean were tough people.
They are
to fight.
Absolutely. I mean, even me and Israel both went to Korea, and our times with the ROK, the Republican Korean Army,
Rock
guys, those are tough dudes.
Yeah,
even though it's like their service is mandatory at 18, I think it's 2 or 3 years. Still tough as nails.
Yeah, interesting story. If you got a minute, just above Bambatuit, they had a rock. Because the Korean Army was, they had a small contingency in Vietnam too.
Oh, I didn't know.
And there was a rock outpost there.
Wow.
They got hit one night with sappers and stuff, and blew up a bunch of stuff. Those guys, they tracked them down, killed every one of the NVA that did it. They never got hit again.
Oh my God! Yeah, definitely sent a message.
It did.
Oh man, they got the message. That's awesome.
They were some tough guys.
Absolutely, wow. Yeah. They made those. Yeah, that's awesome.
Good story.
Good story. All right, next one. Moving on. So this is a movie, Jacob's Ladder.
No kidding. I mean, I know this is the one with Tim Robbins, right?
Okay, just reading what Chris.
Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins movie. It's like a supernatural kind of thing, but. Well, if it's made in the early 80s, it's made in the 80s. I'm going to say Vietnam. Because if it's made in the early 80s, that was kind of very much in the cultural zeitgeist, kind of thing.
You got a guess, Mike?
I don't have a guess. I'm not familiar with the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're in my shoes right now. Every time I'm like, I don't know what the heck.
I'm going to say Vietnam.
Well, if you guess Vietnam, you are correct. Yes. So it is Vietnam. Right. I don't know anything about this movie. Chris, you want to explain a little bit about Jacob's Ladder?
Jacob's Ladder it's Tim Robbins. The movie starts out, he's in Vietnam, and he's with his platoon, and they all start going crazy, and they're all homicidal.
And then killing each other and stuff.
And then they're killing each other, and then a guy he gets stabbed with a bayonet, and then it jumps forward to the future, and he's in his apartment. It's 1975 when the movie takes place. But you go through the whole movie, and then you find out at the end, sorry, spoilers, it's been out for 3 decades. You find out at the end that he never left the jungle. He never survived. The army had tested this chemical on the soldiers that makes them, it's supposed to make them more violent, but they're more violent to each other. It was one of his own guys that stabbed him.
Oh, man.
So he never survived. So all the stuff you see in the movie was just a fever dream of his. And it's called The Ladder. That's why it's called Jacob's Ladder.
Okay. Wow.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on, keeping it going. About halfway done here. All right. So this is a movie, and we talked about it before, so you might be able to get this. So we'll see if you can do it, Mike. Three Kings. George Clooney, Ice Cube,
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg?
Yep, Mark Wahlberg, George Clooney, and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first Gulf War, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. You got it. There you go. Hell yeah. Yep.
Try to steal that Iraqi gold, Saddam's gold.
Right.
Saddam's gold. And they get away with some, right? But they end up giving it away to
they end up giving it to a good cause, kind of some of the refugees or something like that, yeah.
Nice. Okay, yeah, you guys got that. Doing well so far. All right. So this one's a movie, and it is The Hurt Locker.
Yeah, that was Iraq 2.
Yeah, that was Iraq 2. Yeah, that was the second, Iraqi invasion. Stuff.
Yeah. Yep, happened in Iraq. That was a former Ranger EOD.
Right.
Yeah, which is very interesting because I didn't know we had EOD in Regiment. That might be one of those movie things where it's it came from. Because he's wearing a Ranger scroll in the entire movie, and then he comes over and does a bunch of EOD stuff.
That's Hawkeye.
Yeah, it is Hawkeye.
Now, you were able to wear your scroll whether you was with
so as long as you're deployed. But the thing was, which kind of has been really debated, and it shouldn't be just because, a lot of people that, if you're attached to a unit, so Special Forces support guys,
right?
Technically, they wear the... What do you guys refer to that as?
Long tab?
Long tab.
No, not the long tab, but the dagger with the light, just the airborne.
The airborne and the long tab, you have to graduate the Q course.
Yeah. So underneath the long tab, the unit insignia.
The arrowhead. I'm not sure if there's a name for it. Our patch, unit patch.
It's just the unit patch.
Yeah, but you guys say long tab all the time. So
long tab
is your special forces.
It's special forces, but yes, the support personnel that are attached to special forces.
They don't wear the long tab, but they wear the airborne.
The airborne and the arrow.
Yeah.
So in regiment, you on your RASP certificate, it basically states that you are now allowed to wear the Ranger scroll.
Right.
So, but like PsyOps groups or civilian affairs that get attached to regiment and deploy, some think that they can wear it, but technically to even wear it, you need, even if you've deployed attached to us, you need to have attended RASP to be able to wear it on your deployment side.
Right.
So there is some confusion there because some PsyOp guys wear the scroll as their deployment, even though they're attached, but technically they're not allowed to wear it. So you must attend RASP to be able to wear a Ranger scroll.
I love how we have a 5-minute conversation after each question.
Oh, yeah.
No, I love it. Like, we're not just like banging them out. We're like, no, wait, let me say something about this.
Yeah. So he wears a scroll in that movie. But I all I know is, as far as our engineers, they're pretty proficient in explosives and basically how to take care of it. And typically we would deploy with EOD attached to us. So like we brought in EOD guys.
Right.
So anyways, that's just my thought about it. But next one, this one is a TV show, and it is Gods and Generals.
This is a TV show?
Yes.
Gods and Generals, huh?
I've never heard
Is
of
it
it.
a miniseries? Or I guess so. Okay. I think I know, but I'll, Mike, I'll defer to you.
Gods and
Give me a
Generals.
minute. I think I have a good guess, I think it's a good guess.
Boy, it would be just a guess. I'd say World War II, but just a guess.
It's got Gods and Generals. It's a very broad net. Gods.
Yes.
And
It is.
Generals, you know?
They've been around, both have been around for a long time.
I'm going to say, because I remember hearing about this at the time, I'm going to say Civil War, actually.
Civil
Gods
War.
and Generals.
So Israel, you are correct. It is the Civil War. Man.
It was very much at the time of like Gettysburg and all these kind of Civil War movies.
Right.
They all tend to come out in groups, you know.
Yeah.
You want to talk about dudes that were tough as nails.
I know everybody
Yeah.
think the war before was always, they were always tougher, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, ever. And now,
The Civil War was by far the worst.
Yeah.
oh, yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
man.
you consider just like training, use of tactics, right? I mean, the whole guerrilla warfare was invented by the Swamp Fox, Francis Marion.
Oh, the Patriot movie.
Yeah,
guy?
so it's based off a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much the lineage of the Ranger Regiment came
Right.
from that. And I mean, they were fighting in lines.
I just think medical, just like the
yeah,
medical,
there's
the
no-
surgery, you know, like
Well, yes.
cut limbs off.
there's no anesthetics. There's no medication.
Well, on the body count, obviously you're counting on both sides.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Americans.
Yeah.
But it far outweighed anything we've ever
yeah.
ever
The
encountered.
bloodiest of all wars has
Yes.
been fought on our own turf.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's against Americans.
Right.
Nuts. But yeah, Civil War, tough as nails. The conditions, the equipment they had, just, oh, it's snowing, just put another fleece cloth over your head and
Yeah.
it'll get wet. And then when that one gets wet, put another one.
Yeah, right.
Just layer up. But okay, moving on here. Almost done. Got two more. This one is a movie, and it is called The Thin Red Line.
That was World War II. World War II.
For bonus points, I'm going to say World War II as well. For bonus points, which theater? Pacific or
That was a European theater.
European theater? I'm going to say Pacific theater. Yeah.
I can't answer that bonus question,
okay.
but I can tell you both are right. It is World War II, but okay, I skipped one. Chris, thank you for correcting me, and we will pay it some honor. So this one, what does it mean if it's B? Oh, it's a book. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So books, what are those nowadays? All Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay. This is famous kind of a. Everybody knows the title of this story.
Right, you read it in grade
Wasn't
school?
it an old movie too? Didn't they make it into? Yeah.
They did. They did make it into a
What do you think, Mike?
movie.
I have a guess.
I'm saying World War II.
World War II?
I'm going to say World War One.
World War One. It is World War One.
Actually, yeah.
Yes.
It does make-
All Along the Western Front. I actually haven't even heard of this book.
It's interesting because it's told from the perspective of the German soldiers.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
And
Like,
it's
those Americans are
and it's from the
ruthless.
viewpoint of the trench lines, I believe, isn't it?
That's brutal.
Yeah, trench warfare.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fun.
Yeah, no man's land. Okay, well, this one is the last one to finish off our game here, so prepare yourselves. It is a video game, and it is Shell Shock 2 Blood Trails.
Whoa, Shell Shock 2, Blood Trails.
No pressure, Mike.
I draw a blank on the video games.
Draw upon
Very
your
good.
vast knowledge of all the video games.
Exactly.
Now, shell shock.
They didn't have PS4s in Vietnam, man. Come on.
I don't know. I'm trying to be detective, but shell shock is not a term that we use anymore. I feel like that's like a World War II one.
It is World War II. That's where it started.
Yeah.
World War II.
Now we call it, I don't know if they call it PTSD or we call it whatever, but
Right.
shell shock when a guy was like, out of it.
It definitely has evolved from it. It's kind of, I think it is a form of PTSD that they say now, or like a TBI.
Yeah. Traumatic brain injury, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say World War II, I guess. Shell shock.
Yeah, I'd have to say World War II just by the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you both were wrong, unfortunately. It is going to be the Vietnam War.
Vietnam War.
Vietnam.
What's that? Does he have a
That's odd because that wasn't used. It was flashback.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Flashback was used
For like
a person,
trauma.
person
Like that
flips
dude's
out.
just flashback right now.
The person Rambo. When he was in the
when they're about ready
in
to
the jail.
shave him. Yeah, and he
That-
flips out because he remembers his
that was
captivity.
flashback.
Yeah, flashbacks. Yeah, okay.
It's probably just
That's
a video
interesting.
game, just trying to name their
Yeah,
name
we
something.
we're going through
Yeah.
a naming process right now for something
Yeah.
else we're doing, and it's very tough to come up with like a cool name that also satisfies kind of the military. You got to get it like that. So
Right,
here's it,
right.
they're like,
The
oh, I
easy
get what
part
you're
is
about.
filming it. The hard part is naming the
Yeah,
man.
yep, that's right.
That's with anything. But awesome. That's going to conclude our game. Thanks for playing.
Mike,
you guys did
so honored
very
and
well.
appreciative that you came and spent some time
enjoyed
with us.
it very much.
Absolutely. And what was the name of your security agency?
Castlum Security and Protective Services.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys are looking for any
Saudi
EP
princes
work-
out there need some
Yeah, exactly. Our close listeners, you got yourself a good PSD team right there. We release a podcast every Wednesday, so if you guys want to keep tuning in, like I said, we release podcasts every Wednesday. I just said it. But
That's that automatic tape.
I
that
know, right? It's just on replay. But, we have also on Fridays, we release our YouTube. And check that out if you guys want to see what we look like and how stupid we look. But
it's a shock, really.
It is a shock. It is shell shock.
It's a shell shock.
Shell shock. But also, if you guys want to check out my streetwear brand, go ahead and look at Kick God Apparel on Instagram or on our website, www.kickgodapparel.com. Israel.
And if they want to hang out with me a little bit more, you can go over to twitch.tv/myhappyself. I stream in a couple days a week, so it's a good time. But Mike, thanks again for joining us. And with that, let's cue the music.